Hey, good morning, it's Owen, Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Wanted to do another blog here on maintenance fees, strata fees. I've done many of these over the years. Time for another one here. I'm working with a couple of younger buyers, first-time buyers, both in East Vancouver, Richmond, and I've got some looking in New Westminster right now. So I've been on the MLS quite a bit the last few weeks, looking at older units. A lot of them are three-story, four-story wood frame, some concrete stuff, but it's anywhere between 30 to 45 years old. Something that I'm starting to see, I've noticed quite a bit here in East Van, and I also saw some out of New Westminster, are incredibly high maintenance fees. So I'll give you an example of one here. This is a 40-year-old wood frame, 2-bedroom, 2-bath in uptown New Westminster, priced at $260,000. Looks pretty good. You scroll down, look at the maintenance fees, it's at $718.62 per month. $718. You look in the agent's remarks, and of course they'll have an explanation for it. Maintenance fees are excessive or high because they are putting money into the Contingency Reserve fund. So without even knowing the particulars on this building, and there's a number of them, there's another one just down the street from this one I saw that had a maintenance fee of $680. And the unit price on these is, as I say, $260 is the asking price. So I can tell you without the particulars, I know what's happened in this building. I've seen it lots of times before. 40-year-old building, they've let a lot of things go over the years, and now a lot of it is coming up for repair. They're probably getting ready to put their third roof on, balconies, siding, the windows are going, elevators probably need to be upgraded, the boilers, the common area carpet. A lot of things are coming due, and they've been letting this slide for the last 5 or 10 years. Now what do? They have an AGM or a special general meeting, and we've got to do something about this, and they do what I would call a knee-jerk reaction and increase the maintenance fees 2 or 3-fold. They were probably at one time $300 or $350 a month. They bumped those up to close to $720 a month. Now, I tell you, listen, there's no real easy way out of this, but I can tell you if you're on Strata Council or you're a Strata president and you're watching this video and you're in a similar situation, because there's a lot of these playing out, bumping your maintenance fees up to $700, $750 a month is not the way to do it. Because what you've done here essentially is you've pretty much made this unit unsellable. And I can tell you that there's several others in East Vancouver. They're always listed, they're on the market for 150, 160 days, even in a hot seller's market. And the reason is usually because they've got these excessively high maintenance fees. Who's going to buy the unit? You have to ask yourself that. In the $250,000, $260,000 price range for a 40-year-old unit, most of the buyers for these are going to be first-time buyers. They're going to be younger, not a lot of credit history, so chances are they're probably taking a high ratio mortgage out, which means they're putting down less than 20%. I can tell you that even if you get an accepted offer on this, you'll have subject to financing, inspection, etc. As soon as their lender looks at the spec sheet on this, price looks okay, everything looks fine, he sees the maintenance fee at $718, they're not going to put the stamp on the mortgage. This guy's maintenance fees are going to be more than his mortgage payment every month. So it's going to be very difficult to sell this unit, unless it's a cash buyer, all cash buyer, or someone putting down 50% or more. Anyone doing high ratio is going to have a very difficult time to get the mortgage approved with this type of maintenance fee. So, there are so many better ways to do this. None of them are easy, but the optics, when you start getting into $700 maintenance fees, you're doing way more damage than you are good. I'm sure the people thought they were doing the right thing here. We got to get some money built up into the contingency fund. We've got things that are coming due. But bumping it up that excessively is not the way to do it. There's a number of things you could have done that would have been better. You could have called an SGM and said, listen, we've got to start getting some money together. We've got to put a roof on the building next spring. We've got to start doing some window repairs or whatever. Let's do a one-time special levy of $3,000 per owner, and we'll bump the maintenance fees up $100 a month to $400, let's say. the optics on that are going to look far better. A $400 maintenance fee compared to a $720 maintenance fee. Still not easy. You're going to have to levy everyone a one-time fee. So there's other ways to do it as well, but this is one of the worst things you can do, is to bump these maintenance fees to these excessive levels. People need to understand as well that the Contingency Reserve Fund, a lot of people are under the belief that they buy a stratified condo or townhouse, and the CRF, the Reserve Fund, is going to cover all their repairs from here on in. And it's not. The CRF is only meant, in my opinion, as a buffer. It's going to help supplement some of these major expenses. It's going to help with the landscaping and minor things like that, cleaning the carpets if you need some extra money out of the CRF. But to do roof repair, roof upgrade or a replacement, siding, balconies, windows, the CRF might take a levy of $5,000 for a new roof per owner down to maybe $3,500. It'll make it a little easier, but that's all it's going to do. And I blogged about it before. There's pros and cons. Some people will say you want to start building up money in the Contingency Reserve Fund. I'm under the belief that you want to have some money in there, but you never want to start pumping excessive amounts into the contingency fund. I would rather get levied on a lot of these things, and a lot of owners feel the same way I do. I mean, why pump a ton of money into the CRF? You're not going to earn any interest on it, or very little, 0.5%. I would rather hang on to my money, invest it how I see fit, get a far better return than I'm going to get from the strata managing it. And when we need a new roof, or we need some window repairs or siding or a boiler upgrade, I'll write you a check for the levy and we'll pay for it. Now, I know it's easier said than done. It depends on the dynamics in the strata you're dealing with and the age of the typical owner and what they can afford. But bumping strata fees up into high 600s and 700, you're doing a lot of damage there. You're rendering these units almost unsellable for most buyers. The banks will not approve the mortgage when they see these excessive maintenance fees. So there's better ways around it. I would suggest too, I see this so many times, if you're thinking about doing something like this, making a massive increase to your maintenance fees, consult some people about it. Get a good realtor in there and ask them what he or she thinks about doing this. Get a mortgage broker into your AGM and discuss the pros and cons to what you're trying to do here. And then make your decision. Because I know a lot of these things, they think they're doing the right thing, but I don't think they realize how much damage they're doing. And it's the same thing, I talked about it before on rental caps as well. Rental restrictions is another thing that, I know of a lot of good buildings in East Vancouver and in Richmond. Some of them are older. A lot of them now are starting to get remediation work. They're great complexes. They're on the mend now. They're starting to levy for roofs and siding and windows. But a lot of them either have no rentals allowed, or it might be a 100-unit complex and they only allow 5 rentals. And that's another one where they should really consult a realtor on it. You don't want it where it's 80% rented, but there's a happy medium there. And I think some of these developments, if they're complexes, these older ones, if they just bumped up the rental allowance maybe to 15% or 20%, which is still quite low, it would be like a shot of adrenaline into some of these older stratas, because now you're opening it up to a much bigger demographic of buyers. You've got investors now that would be interested. I know of several complexes, buildings in Mount Pleasant, Main Street, as well as West Richmond that I would love to buy a unit in, but they don't have rentals, or the rentals are very low and it's full. You can't buy it and rent it. I would love to buy a unit or two. I would fully renovate it and put a good tenant in there. I screen all my tenants. I take the time. I would make sure that they're working, they've got a good income, they've got a good credit history, and put a good tenant in there. And if you didn't have that rental cap, it would open it up to other investors like myself who would buy up a lot of these units that are for sale, and it would be like a shot of adrenaline to the prices over time. So consult if you're strata manager or you're a strata president or on the strata council. Again, before you do anything too drastic, why don't you take the time, call a realtor, call a mortgage broker, and get their opinion on what you want to do as far as raising your strata fees or putting in restrictions. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.